I want to read books I'd never read. I want to hang around people that I'd never hang around. I want to know what they know. I want to have discussions about things I'd never talked about. I wanted to feed my brain something that my brain didn't know, so that my brain can tell my body to do something it never done. So then when my brain feeds my body and my body feeds my life, then I begin to have an experience that I'd never had before. It wasn't rocket science. People want to make success rocket science. Success is not rocket science. You go and find the thing that you don't know, learn the thing you don't know, and do the thing you haven't been doing, and get the life you say you want. But you have to understand that most people don't invite in unfamiliar, because people are more committed to a familiar discomfort than they are to an unfamiliar new possibility. The key words are familiar and unfamiliar. See, we want to have a new experience while having some of the same behaviors because they're familiar to us. People are still at jobs that aren't even comfortable. They're just familiar. I became comfortable living in the discomfort of the unknown.
Need motivation?
Watch Top 10 with Believe Nation.
Hey, it's Evan Carmichael, and I make these videos because in my first business, I quit on my business partner. I struggled to keep going. I was making $300 a month and felt like a complete failure. And the thing that saved me, that pulled me up, was studying the stories of famous entrepreneurs. I got the motivation from them. I also got the strategies of what to do next so that I can go off and achieve my dreams. And quite honestly, I still need the stories today myself to continue my motivation to take it to the next level. So today, let's learn from one of the best, Lisa Nichols, and my take on her top 50 rules for success. Enjoy.
Is to, instead of making big macro goals, those big bodacious goals, make some micro goals, smaller goals. I don't make an annual goal. I make quarterly goals. I make monthly goals. And each quarter and each month, the goal that I hit, I stop and celebrate myself. Now, I celebrate myself by making me something really good and inviting one person over or 3 people over and say, I'm celebrating myself for small micro wins. Taking myself out for a nice night, something to eat, or just sharing with a friend. Celebrating yourself along the journey is also not keeping your wins a secret. I used to keep my victories a secret. I would get an award, or I would close a deal, or I would get a new contract, or I would whatever. And no one knew because I didn't want to brag. Well, what if I know I'm not a bragger? Like, what if you know you're not a bragger? Can you not be someone who brags, but is someone who wants to celebrate yourself along the journey? We're all like little 3-year-old kids. What gets celebrated gets repeated. And if you want to repeat successful behaviors, then you got to celebrate them, because what's celebrated gets repeated.
So the first thing I said was, I'm done with this level of misery. So I didn't run toward anything first. The first thing I did was try to get as far away from chaos and scarcity and lack and procrastination and procrastinating people and making excuses, making being a single mom an excuse, or being black an excuse, or being born in LA an excuse. Not to say those things don't impede or have an impact on our ability to move forward. But I didn't want to make any one of them my crutch as to why I stayed in my hellhole. I don't know about anyone else, but my place, I didn't know where I was going, but I knew where I was leaving.
Over my career, and I've been in business over 20 years now, people from all around the world, students at every level, whether they are newly into launching their business or they've been in business themselves for 10, 15 years, ask the question, how do I overcome fear? I'm about to disrupt you completely, because I am not going to give you a strategy to overcome fear. Because if I even attempt to give you a strategy, and I know we're always looking at stuff, reading things, how to overcome fears. There are probably 10 steps to overcoming fear somewhere out there. They weren't written by me, and I could never write it. Because I don't think you wait to overcome fear to live the life of your dreams, or the one that you deserve, or to blow your own mind. I personally, and I'm teaching you from my life lessons, from what I've studied, what I've applied, what I've implemented, what I've fallen from, what I've soared from, what I've gotten up from. And I don't think you focus on learning how to overcome fear, though there are things that helps to mitigate your fear. Information mitigates fear. Training and developing your skill set mitigates fear. I teach speaking. I love teaching people how to speak powerfully. Not to speak to be great, but to speak to be unforgettable. Whether you're a speaker or whether you're a manager, whether you're in retails or network marketing, whatever it is, when you open your mouth, you want to be unforgettable. And people always say, Lisa, how do I overcome the fear of speaking? I say, let's not focus on the fear of speaking, because energy grows where energy goes. So let's not focus on overcoming fear. Let's focus on building a muscle that naturally dissolves fear. And that muscle is the muscle of information, the muscle of education, and the muscle of skill set. So if you know more and then you develop the skill set, you won't be as afraid to do that thing that you're talking about. But the other side to that, now I'm going to disrupt you a bit. So the first part, not so disruptive. That means go get it more information, give fear what fear needs to reduce itself, meaning information, skill set. But this other part that I'm going to tell you, this might be disruptive. How about you not try to mitigate, resolve, or get past, or overcome, whatever you want to call it? How about you not try to do that with fear? How about you allow the fear to sit with you? You just commit to keep moving, even with the fear. So many times in my life and in my career, I was afraid. The difference between me and most is that I still move forward with the fear. Fear does not have a past to stop you. Fear does not have a past to stop you. First of all, let me just tell you this. Just like compassion, just like love, just like respect, just like any other feeling you feel for someone, fear is just a feeling. We just give fear more power. We say, when compassion comes, I hug, I love. When understanding comes, when joy comes, when humor comes, I laugh. But when fear comes, I get to stop. What if you change the meaning to that? Ooh, just stick with me right here. What if you change your dance with fear? What if you tell fear, you're welcome in my life because you're gonna come. Can't keep you away. But when you come, I'm not going to stop.
Also, to make sure you're actually taking action after watching this video, I've designed a special free worksheet just for this video. The worksheet will highlight all of the lessons learned in this video, as well as pull out our 3 favorite learnings and quotes that will inspire you to actually do something. The worksheet will also give you space to write down what your key takeaways are and your specific plan of action to make sure you're getting results. If you want the worksheet designed specifically for this video, absolutely for free, there's a link in the description below. Go click on it and start building the momentum in your life and your business. I'll see you there.
Again, you say your name first. Lisa, I commit to you that. And you make 7 different commitments to yourself. That before you go out of your door and you commit to other people, because you know, we're more apt to honor our commitment to other people than we are to honor our commitment to ourselves. We break our commitments to ourselves all the time, and yet when I give you my word, oh man, you can bet your last dime on that word and you will end up with 20 cents. But what happens when you begin to commit to yourself? You'll see that making commitments to you not only feel as good as making commitments to other people, but they feel better. Because when you show up for you, you serve everybody else from your overflow. One of the big things that I've learned is that the more I owned my own authority, the more I can honor other people's awareness, honor where they are. The more I stood in my own grace and compassion, the more I can honor the grace and compassion of others. The more I owned my no, the more grateful I was for other people's yeses. So it's just one of these things where the more you work on you, the more you turn the mirror to you versus pointing at everyone else, the more you turn the mirror to you and work on you, man, the dynamics between you and everyone else just gets richer. I became a more compassionate, more giving, more loving friend when I became more compassionate, giving, and loving to Lisa.
When I say to you, I didn't choose the possibility first. I just stopped choosing the chaos. See, there's a couple of there's several choices you have to make, because your answer isn't going to come with the ceiling opening and lights beaming in and a choir showing up and like, no, that doesn't happen like that. If the first thing is, I was sick of smelling my own crap, I was sick of hearing my own story, I was sick of wondering about my own potential. So I realized that everything I had done had gotten me where I was. And everything I didn't know was going to get me somewhere else.
Unconsciously, we have a tendency to do things to influence someone's perception of us. And really what we're trying to do is change or control. That word again. We're trying to control their perception of us because we feel like they're being judging. So we get into the proving business. I said in another Lisa Nichols episode that you have nothing to prove, nothing to protect, nothing to hide, and nothing to defend. That's not just a mouthful of words. That is literally a lifetime of disconnecting from the need to prove to someone you're smart enough, you're kind enough, you're loving enough, you're worthy enough, you're enough, ... Right? And I remember for years, because I didn't graduate from college, I was always trying to prove I was smart enough. Always. And then I had a son without being married. So then I wanted to prove that I was godly enough. I was always trying to prove something until it just became so exhausting. What I was doing was trying to control people's judgment of me. Procrastination is really putting off your own desires. Procrastination is putting yourself last. Procrastination shows up when we are so used to putting everyone else in front of us, or we're actually afraid to do that thing that we say we want to do because we're not sure if we can handle the outcome. But the whole attachment to procrastination and self-love, what you can do tomorrow, why not do today? What you can do today, why not do right now? One of my team members talked about reading a book called Touch It Once, which means if you can touch it once and get it done, how much more productive will you be? What happens when you feel like you're always being judged? Number one is divorce yourself from trying to manage someone's judgment of you. I know that sounds backwards because we want to go over there and change them. I know. Well, when I figure that one out, you'll be the first to know. But in the meantime, how can you separate yourself, divorce, I know it's a strong word, but that's the separation, from the need to monitor other people's judgment of you? Let me tell you what that answer is. You go over to self-awareness. You go over to recognizing I am whole. I am smart enough. I am wise enough. I am kind enough, not from a bragging way, not from a self-righteous way, from the most humble way possible. Can you wake up tomorrow morning and be content with who you are, irregardless of anyone's opinion of you once you leave the house, or maybe the person next to you, or the people downstairs, the people in your same house? Can you wake up tomorrow standing and living in the statement and the knowing, I am enough, and then leave everyone's opinion to them?
My mistakes now are 7-figure mistakes. I'm not without errors now. Now there's 7-figure errors. Trust me, I've paid the attorneys, but I'm still new terrain.
Yeah.
I'm the same woman I was at 25, at 28, at 30, new terrain. And so I began to explore what I didn't know. I surrounded myself with people who made me want to stand on my tippy toes. Yeah. I surrounded myself with people who made me want to be a better woman, not just in the money I made, but in the way I parented, in the way I showed up, in the way I looked at humanity. I began to be around people who respected the color of my skin and my culture. Don't forget it. Don't say we're all the same, because we're not. My journey isn't your journey because of the gender, the background, the origin, the religion. They're not the same. Right. So let's not act like we're all gray, because we're not. But can I dance in the dynamics of our diversity? See, I began to hang around people who allowed me to dance in the dynamic of our diversity, and began to find ways where we can both become better people because we sat together. I began to hang around old white men because and not every old white man, but older white men, because they seem to have had this conversation, this relationship to wealth and wealth management
Yes.
that I didn't have. And I didn't abandon my nationality, my culture. I want to go collect information so I can come back and open the door and keep the door open so we all can come through.
Celebrate your wins. This is where I invited you to make a list of the 10 things that you have to celebrate about this past year. Now, if you're just joining me, then it's not too late. Make a list. You've done many more than 10 things, but make a list of 10 things that you have to celebrate about over this past year. And they can cover any area from family to finances to business to health and wellness to relationships to body to fitness, anything. Let me first explain to you what forgiveness isn't. Because most people won't forgive because they have an incorrect understanding of what forgiveness is. So forgiveness is not pardoning someone's behavior. It's not excusing someone's behavior. Forgiveness isn't admitting that you were wrong. Forgiveness isn't saying what was done to me is okay. Forgiveness isn't any of those things. Forgiveness actually, if you really understand it, it has less to do with the other person and more to do with you and more to do with your future. Let's go back to the oil and water scenario. So forgiveness invites in love, invites in possibility, invites in prosperity, it invites in new thinking, it invites in creativity. So forgiveness is an expanding emotion. When you forgive, you're opened up for new things. Anger is a contracting emotion. It requires you to shut down, to avoid, to shut out, to stop talking. Everything in anger is about stopping and shutting down. Everything about forgiveness is about opening up without pardoning someone's behavior. I want to make sure I'm clear on that because most people attach forgiveness to, but you don't know what he did, but you don't know what she did. When you can detach, forgiveness is not about what they did. Forgiveness, get this, forgiveness is about making yourself available. Think about your body is primary real estate. There's only so much of it. It's a finite space. There's only so much space. It's not forever. This is your body. So if this is your primary real estate, your heart, and you have anger occupying 20% of it, you can never experience 100% love. You can never experience 100% possibility. You haven't given yourself a chance at 100% of the things you want most because your primary real estate, your heart, your body, your mind is being occupied with a very intrusive, toxic emotion. Less and less about them. Nothing to do with them being right or their behavior being pardoned or the action. It's your future is paying for your past when you hold on to anger. So when you get really connected to the cost of anger, then it's not about the what. Matter of fact, the longer you've been angry, the longer you've robbed yourself of 100% of what you were worthy of. And if someone's betrayed you, if someone's hurt you, then you over everyone deserve 100% love, 100% possibility, 100%. But it requires forgiveness. And in many cases, it's forgiveness of yourself. In many cases, the person you've been angry at the longest is yourself. And the same rule applies when it comes to you. We've been taught how to serve others, sometimes to the detriment of our own selves. Sometimes we serve others higher than we serve ourselves. At times we feel more comfortable with saying yes to other people and less comfortable saying yes to our own self-care. So I ask you, what is that about? It's about the opportunity to fall madly in love with you. The way you love those around you, to fall madly in love with your well-being, to fall madly in love with who you are when you get up from taking care of yourself. When you rise from a nap or you rise from a spa day or when you leave the gym, to fall madly in love with that level of excellence. And when you do, what you'll do is give to everyone else around you a better version of you. So oftentimes we sacrifice our own well-being because we're being what I call the sacrificial martyr. And I know that was me. I would serve everybody else and everyone else would go, oh, I just don't have any time for Lisa. Well, that's the story we tell. I actually didn't believe that I deserved to have a day off. I didn't believe that I deserved to have a spa day. I didn't believe that I deserved to take a long walk on the beach. Something in me kept saying that I hadn't done enough. I hadn't achieved enough. I hadn't gotten far enough. So it actually had little to do with the people around me that I was blaming it on or using as my out. My child, my parents, my family, my community. It had to do with Lisa, giving Lisa the chance to actually enjoy the journey while still on it.
Joan Baez says, and my coach Susie Carter first shared this with me, that Joan Baez says the antidote for despair is action. So I said, how can I be in action? I was always looking to be in action. What else can I do? What else can I do? What else can I do? And then I go learn. What else can I do? So to me, there's a very short line between learning and doing.
Yes.
And if you haven't done anything what you learn, why are you getting more education? You haven't even applied what you, like I'm a hell of a coach now.
It's like people who read a book and they don't go apply it. They just want to read the next book.
Right. Hi. The book I read when I was in my deepest, darkest hour, Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, changed my life because I got into radical action behind it. I was like, oh, Stephen Covey talks about attending your own funeral, doing a visionary session where you attend your own funeral and there are 4 people to speak. What will those 4 people say about you? What kind of brother were you? What kind of friend were you? What kind of social change agent were you? What kind of neighbor were you? Man, when I did that exercise, I was like, oh, I'm a nice person, but I'm not getting they're not saying the things about me that I want to be said.
Right, yes.
I'm writing my eulogy right now, Amar. I'm writing my eulogy. I'm writing my legacy. I'm not just living for now. I'm living for the 40 years from now story being told about me. I'm living for my grandchildren's story about who great-great-great-grandma was. And when you live for a lifetime, not just your life cycle, but a lifetime, you live for the legacy. I'm writing my legacy now. You won't sweat the small stuff anymore. You won't get caught up in gossip. You won't get caught up in living inside worry. You might worry, but worry does not have permission to take up real estate in your body. Worry is chased by solution and strategy.
Yes, by action, yeah.
And I always tell people, listen, I'll have every emotion like everyone else. I'll have fear, I have doubt, I have judgment, but you cannot take up real estate in my body. There's no lease options to buy in my mind. Don't lease option buy in my mind and don't take up real estate. I got things to do. I got changes to make. And I'm not a super hero. I'm not. I'm an ordinary woman. I'm an ordinary woman who chooses every day to make one more extraordinary decision.
Acknowledge your community. See, when you celebrate the people around you that bring you joy or that teach you some of the hardest lessons that you need to learn, the iron that sharpens the iron, the celebrators that celebrate you, those who hold the space for you and with you, pray for you, honor you, when you celebrate and lift them up, the whole tide rises. So I want you to find 6 people in your community, not out of obligation, but truly out of choice. They can be in your circle, in your family, in your business circle. And I want you to acknowledge them for the contribution that they bring to your life. What I love about acknowledgement is that when you acknowledge other people, it actually makes you happier. It's just this amazing gift of giving. And what I love is that most people would rather get an acknowledgement from you than a physical gift. That means they don't necessarily need the perfume, they don't need the sweater, they don't need the new iPhone, whatever. They want you to look at them in their eyes and say, you bring value to my life. I honor you, I celebrate you, I appreciate you. Take time to have a personal moment with them where you're just seeing them. The number one reason why people feel sad and disconnected is because they say they don't feel seen. So in this acknowledgement, I want you to look into their eyes and acknowledge them for who they are and how they make your life better. When you raise the community around you, the entire tide rises, the energy rises, the joy rises, the expectation rises. And guess what? If you make this a part of your weekly habits with them, I didn't say daily, I didn't say monthly either, and I definitely didn't say annually. But if you make this a part of your weekly, find one thing to acknowledge at least 6 people in your community for each week. One, you'll feel much more excited. But all of a sudden there's a vibration that happens because you've created it. There's this energy of let's go do this, because what gets celebrated gets repeated. You want someone to repeatedly do something wonderful and amazing in your life, you repeatedly acknowledge them from a genuine place. Man, it's so powerful when you truly marry yourself to the acknowledgement process, to the practice of acknowledgement. When you get into the practice of acknowledgement, all of a sudden people will mirror back to you. You don't acknowledge to get it back. You acknowledge because you want people to be seen. But there's just this dance that begins to occur that's absolutely delicious. Every relationship is a relay. It's like my dad's played tennis for over 40 years and I've attempted to play with him at times. And what I realize is that relationships are like a tennis match. I hit the ball to you, you hit the ball back. And a relationship where you think it's only about one person, that's not tennis, that's racquetball, right? But a relationship is a tennis match. And so if a relationship is working, it's because of the way we both are engaging, if it's truly working. And if it's not working, it's the way we both are engaging. And so there could be passive engagement and there could be active engagement. So when you're not speaking up for what you want, when you're holding and you're living with a bunch of withholds, that's engagement. That's just the way you're engaging. So every relationship has 2 parts, whether your part is active or your part is passive. Every relationship has engagement, a level of engagement, and that engagement is on different levels. I'll try says I'll make a feeble attempt. I will is absolute, non-negotiable, no matter what. There's a certain energy that goes forth when you say I'll try, and there's a different energy that goes forth when you say I will. When you make the declaration of I will, that says mountain, if you are there, you must move. I'll try says I hope I got enough energy to make it up or around the mountain, and if not, I'm gonna sit at the bottom of the hill. When you fail to make a plan, okay, well, hold on. This might hit you between the eyes. You know I love you. But when you fail to make a clear, concrete plan that has goals and milestones, meaning they're smaller goals that you can hit to get to the bigger goal, and has a by-when date, not in February, not in August, but August 15th by 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Yeah, when I set a goal, I even want to know the time zone I'm gonna have it done by. Clarity. When you fail to make a plan with clear distinction, when you fail to make a clear plan, you have clearly planned to fail. I'll say it again. When you fail to make a clear plan, then you've clearly planned to fail. I know that hits you hard. I've done it many a times. I have clearly planned to fail many a times because I had an idea and it was just in my unconscious. I didn't know. Now I want to bring to you what I know to you so you know it. I want you to make a clear plan. When you create a clear plan, then you're clearly planning to succeed. Your belief systems were handed to you by your parents and by your grandparents, and they were pretty much embedded by the time you were 10 years old. So there's some beliefs that you didn't even have a chance to develop for your own. You just are living them out.
You inherited them.
You inherit the belief system and didn't unconsciously inherited them. And so the good news is you get to choose to the belief systems you like, and then you get to divorce. I'm going to say divorce because that's a strong word. We all know what separation looks like when you say divorce. You get to divorce from a belief system that doesn't serve you any longer. A belief system that says money is the root of all evil, maybe, or a belief system that says only rich people have money, or all rich people are crooks, or
I used to, my belief system used to be that wealthy people aren't spiritual. That if I'm wealthy, I can't be a spiritual person.
You have to pick God or money.
One or the other. I
Can't
got
have
to
both.
pick my faith or my finances. I can't have both. That's a belief system. And I invite you to divorce it because it's not the case. I have both. And I live in both quite well. I use my money for good in the world. And the more money you have, the more good you'll do if you're a good person. So money makes you more of who you are. So you will only be more of who you are with money.
When we talk about setting healthy boundaries, again, and I know it sounds as if I keep going back to the same thing, but setting healthy boundaries is not about you keeping other people out. If someone crosses your line in the sand, it's because you never made your line deep enough. No one can ever go further with you than you've given them permission to go. So as hard and as difficult as it is to hear, because this was hard for me to hear when I had to admit it to myself, that the way people treated me was based on how I trained them to treat me. So I have to say it to you. You've trained people to treat you the way they're treating you. So if people are crossing your boundaries because they didn't know it was there. If people call you at odd hours of night, it's because you keep answering. If people ask you to do beyond what you're able to do, it's because you keep saying yes. If people don't ever think you need rest, it's because you act like you don't need rest. I know this is not probably what you want to hear, but I signed up and you signed up in this relationship to give you what you need to hear, not necessarily what's always easy to hear. And I'm only telling you what I needed to hear myself. I'm only telling you the lesson that I had to learn, that we train people how to treat us.
I have this program where I look at your money blueprint and I help you look at your money blueprint. And I ask you questions. How was money in your household? Was it the source of argument, the source of contention and divisiveness? Because if so, you don't want money to divide you and your family. So you might not want to have money around, or you want too much because you don't want to be divided.
You don't want to be judged,
right?
Or whatever.
Or did it keep your parents away? Mm-hmm. Like, what was your relationship to money as a child? Because that's fueling you. That has an unconscious influence over you now.
A filter of how you see everything.
Exactly. And you want to bring from the unconscious to the conscious. You might not be listening to it, but you definitely don't want it to have any unconscious power over you. So that's number one. Be aware of your money blueprint. How is money related to in your community? How is it related to in your house? What did you think about money? How is your faith attached to it? I used to think that literally in order to be like Sister Brown, who was like the most godly woman in my church when I was a teenager, she was amazing. But we also had fundraisers for Sister Brown. That I could not have $1 million in my bank account and be Sister Brown.
Yeah.
So I had to it took me years to do that.
Setting quarterly goals, to recognize that goals that are going to be hit are goals that are bite-sized, digestible, and palatable. And you can measure them every 90 days. We together discovered that 90-day goals allows us to get to annual goals and 2-year goals and 5-year goals. But 90-day goals allows you to have bite-sized, palatable, digestible goals that could be measured and or adjusted every 90 days. Oh my God, I love this question. I don't think I've ever been asked this question before. I never had an opportunity to explain it. Being the best version of you. First of all, don't think of it holistic. I want you to break it down to different parts of your life. Because when you are committed to being the best version of you, which in summary, it's the you that you're so incredibly proud of holistically. It's a 360 approach. It says, I'm not perfect. So best does not mean the perfect version of you. Because I think perfection and balance are two illusions that are designed to help you keep chasing something that's not even attainable. So perfect is not attainable and balance is not attainable. So it's perfectly managing my imperfection and releasing balance and having harmony, number one. But the best version of you is really saying that in each area of my life, I'm in movement. In each area of my life, I'm in evolution. In each area of my life, I'm active. I am actively participating in an upwardly mobile way in this area of my life, times every area of my life. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're always where you want to be, but it does mean that you're being responsible, you're being active, and you're being proactive. Finances, that you're looking at your numbers. Just this morning, just this morning, I ran my credit score again. I want to see what's on it. I want to be actively participating in my financial growth. I looked at my savings. I looked at my life insurance. I just looked at my long-term plan. Not necessarily because I want to buy another house or I want to buy a car. I just want to be on top of it. I want to be responsible for it. And then health and wellness. Just yesterday, I was talking to Matt and going, Matt, it's time for us to do another health and wellness campaign. I don't necessarily want to do it. And it slightly to moderately scares me a bit when I'm bringing my fitness into a public conversation. But I know the responsible me, the best version of Lisa, is saying, hold me accountable. Hold me accountable to my fitness goals. Hold me accountable to my total wellness goals. And then last week, I was just sitting with someone saying, you know what? I need to go down the list of all the checkups that I've had. I need to make sure I'm not missing anything. Relationships. I just said to a girlfriend yesterday, hold me accountable. Hold me accountable to not running. I realize that I run well and I run smoothly. I run like a gazelle sometimes when it comes to relationships. It doesn't even look like I'm running because I'm so busy. So I asked someone who knows me, who knows the love that I want, who knows my sexy excuses, I need you to hold me accountable. When I say this, I want you to question it. And so while there's so much growth in every area of my life, I'm being the best version that I know to be because I'm active in every single area. I'm not saying I'm being the best or I am the best. Please don't get me wrong with that. I'm just saying to be the best version of myself. So when you look at being the best version of yourself, look at each part of your life and go, what am I actively doing? Where you feel like I'm in the game in this area. I'm not resigned and I'm not praying for it to go right. Or I'm not in resignation and in complaint about it. I'm not a victim to that relationship. I'm not a victim to my finances. I'm not a victim to the relationships in my family. I'm an active part of creating what's occurring. And it can always get better, but I'm an active part. That's being the best version of you. And waking up each morning and saying, I like me today. I got many things I can work on, but I like me today. Before you ever go out on Facebook or any other social media platform to check to see if anyone else like you, your job is to like you first. And every other like is bonus. That's stepping into the best version of you. Setting long-term goals that make your knees knock a little bit and make your teeth chatter a little bit. Those goals that you don't know exactly how you're going to get it done, but it's something that you want to get done. It stretches you, but it doesn't stress you. Your goals are supposed to stretch you, not stress you. Those things, that combination. And when you live in that capacity and you focus and you operate in that one, that's when you're living and being the best version of you. I'm only telling you the lesson that I had to learn, that we train people how to treat us. In 2007, when I was on the Oprah show, it was the thing that came up and out of me. And she was like, yes, it was that thing that said, we train people how to treat us. Like they're looking at what we're saying yes to and what we're co-signing on. And if we're the yes woman or the yes man all the time, then one, our yes isn't as valuable because everyone automatically expects it because we give it away all the time. And two, they're going to keep asking because they know they're going to get yes. And if you're a producer and deliverer, you're the one I'm going to come to all the time because you're a producer and deliverer. You're going to get the job done, even to the detriment of your own joy. Even to the detriment of your own happiness. But again, you train people how to treat you. But the good news about training someone is that they can be retrained.
Did you consciously sit down and say, I want to manifest inspiring millions of people, making millions of dollars? Was it a conscious thing? Were there moments where you sat there when you weren't living in that reality, where you said, you know what, I'm going to decide, I'm going to figure it out. I might not know how, I might not know where or what, but I'm going to commit to it and make it a reality. I mean, talk to me at the core of your experience.
Right. So I love how you say make millions of dollars. I said I want to inspire people and I want to be able to pay my bills. That was initially.
That was a big dream.
I want to run out a month before I run out of money. Big. I want to have enough. That like you can't think about having abundance until you literally give yourself permission to have enough.
Yeah, get past scarcity.
So I want to have enough to dream. And so my first, I think I have a ministry mindset. My first, I just want to help people. I want to help people who, and I want to be rewarded for my efforts, right? And then once I got past that, I said, okay, I want more. I want to generate millions. I want to serve millions, inspire millions, and generate millions. I think I deserve all of that. But that had to do with my self-worth.
Right.
I had to feel worthy to touch millions. And I had to feel worthy to touch millions. I had to feel worthy of both. And so that was personal development, which is why I live and I stay in personal development. I teach personal development. I teach wealth development, I teach business development, and I teach personal development.
I love
because
that.
you have to have both.
Practice active, yes, I'm gonna say it again, underline, circle active, practice active self-care. That's where you identified what rejuvenates you and made plans to make time for self-care during the busy season. So you made a list of what you know rejuvenates your soul, your mind, your body, your spirit, from walking on the beach to reading a book to taking downtime, free things and retreats or a spa, whatever it is that rejuvenates your soul, to make a list of it and then to make plans, active self-care, to do those things during your busy season. If you find that the relationships around you have toxic outcomes, then I want you to look at where's the breakdown. Is the breakdown in communication? Is the breakdown in how you communicate, the words you're using? Is the breakdown in who you choose to be around? Is the breakdown in the engagement of what you're talking about? What I've learned is that if you're not talking about things that are high enough and big enough, things that are inspiring enough, you will slip into the smallness every single time. If you don't choose an intentionally high, evolving, encouraging conversation, you will slip into the cracks. You will slip into those crevices of smallness and petty. And until you get people trained that you're going to live up here without telling them, I need you to know, it's not an announcement. It's a way of being. It's a what do you choose to participate in. It's a stepping over your desire to hear smallness, gossip, negative feedback. It's when someone is engaging in negative feedback about someone else, the fact that you didn't add anything to the conversation doesn't let you off the hook. Did you stop the conversation? Did you say, hold on, I don't want to engage in speaking negatively of them at all. Why don't you have a conversation with them? It's course correcting behaviors in your space at the risk of losing the relationship. But what you basically do is you say, here's where I play. Here is where I live. I'm not visiting this high road of integrity. I'm not visiting this high road of conscious thinking and awareness and respect and humility and honoring the dignity in people. I don't visit this place. I live here. I don't visit this place. I live here. And in a loving way, anyone that's engaging with you has two choices. They either engage with you here or they choose to engage with someone else. Now, if you find that you're going down to be in the relationship, or you're going down and you're the person taking the relationship down because you're in a moment of anger, or you're in a moment of resentment, or you're in a moment of hurt, then you're not living in your highest integrity. You just visit every now and again when you come to this channel. Uh-oh, I see my Shantae coming out right now. Shantae is my middle name. It's what I do when I start getting real edgy because I really want you to get it. So you need to make a decision on where you choose to reside. And then you don't leave your conscious neighborhood to go visit other people's neighborhood if it's not as high as yours. People will rise to the occasion, or they'll choose not to rise, and they'll pick other people to be with and hang with. And I know that sounds easier said than done, because some of the people who are playing at a lower level might be in family. It might be, and that's fine too. You can love people. It doesn't mean you have to spend tons and tons and tons of time if that time costs you something. Spend as much time as you can. Spend as much time as serves you. Spend as much time as they will allow you to spend. But never leave this place. Even if being with them causes you to allow them to be where they are, you don't have to engage in that. So the bottom line in supporting you to either recognize, are you the toxic element, or are you surrounding yourself in toxic element, is to make a commitment where you live. Where am I living? And first own where you're currently living. Because if you own it, you might go, you know what, I do slip into that small place. Okay, own it. That's conscious awareness. That's powerful. Own it. And then go, where do I want to be? And then what's the distance between here and there? And what do I have to do to get there? What do I have to say no to? What do I have to participate in? What do I have to ask forgiveness for? What do I have to clean up? What relationships require cleaning up? And then what declarations must I make? And what decisions must I live in? Don't make a decision, live in your decision. So when you look at being your own rescue, what does that look like? Being your own rescue comes from so many different areas. I've always taught that we need to separate our life into categories and manage your whole life in categories. The health and wellness category. What does being your own rescue look like in health and wellness? For me, it was pretty radical. For me, it was all the way from not only getting more physically fit, but it was going to the doctor and asking for medical help. It was saying something's happening in my body and I don't know what. It was no longer ignoring what was happening. What does being your own rescue look like in your finances? For me, it was me writing myself a check the way I wrote SD&G and the way I wrote the electricity bill and the way I wrote my rent check way back 20 years ago. It was me writing a check to my dream and putting in the subject line, funding my dream. That was being my own rescue as well. What does being your own rescue look like in a relationship? Does it look like just speaking up and asking for what you need? Or does it look like telling someone, I love you more often? Or thank you more often? Or please accept my apology for not showing up for you. What does being your own rescue look like in the different categories? And then what does action look like to be that rescue? Because when you can be your own rescue, you actually are your own superhero. You actually are your own best friend. You actually become everything you need for you. And then you can serve everyone else from your overflow. I love it.
If you don't treat money right, and you're not responsible with money, you will repel money because you're not a good steward of it. And so until I became a better steward of money, and I'm still growing in that area, and money and I would keep giving it away until it was all gone because my mindset said it all had to be gone. There's never going to be extra.
Yeah.
My grandmother would make 10 dimes go in 20 different directions. Who was I to have 20 dimes and only 10 directions needed?
Yes.
Right? Again, mindset.
I love to go back and share some of my favorite memories with you, my fondest. And what I realized, they're actually my most moving memories. One happened over 12 years ago. I was in Toronto, Canada with Margaret. And this gentleman walked up to me, standing about 6'2", Caucasian man in his mid-40s. And he looked at me and he goes, Lisa, I have a problem with you. I said, you do? And my heart started to beat. I'm like, oh my God, someone doesn't like me. What did I say wrong in their eyes? And how is this gonna play out? And he goes, I have a problem. I really have a problem. And I said, okay, how can I help you? He said, I'm an atheist. I don't believe in God. I'm fine not believing in God. I'm comfortable. I prefer not to believe in God. I don't believe that there's a God. And I said, okay, what's your problem? He said, my problem is I love you. I love everything about you. I love the energy you come with. I love the way you speak. I love what I feel when I'm listening to you talk. He said, and you keep referring to this God as your source. And I don't believe in God. So that's my problem. And I said, sir, I'm sorry. I'm not sure where your problem lies. I said, if you don't believe in God, you have that right. If you love me, I'm excited because you can feel that I love you too. And he looked at me and he goes, so let me get this straight. This is not the part where you try to convert me or try to tell me how wrong I am, or you try to explain to me about your God so that I can begin to believe like you believe. This is not that part. You're not going to do that? And I looked up at him. I said, why would I do that? You're committed to whatever you believe in. My job is to honor your belief system. And he goes, see, you're doing that thing again that's making me love you more. That's my problem. But I know you believe in God. I said, that's not a problem. why don't you keep believing in me and loving me? I'll keep believing in God and loving God, and we'll keep having this great experience. After I said that, he just grabbed me and he hugged me and he held me. And I knew somehow he was holding on to possibility. That's what I choose to tell myself. He was holding on to the love that he could feel from me, the palatable, non-judgmental, non-persecuting love. And in that moment, I couldn't feel more joy. As I held that man, I couldn't feel more joy. I couldn't feel more happiness that this is what ministry is about. This is what touching souls is about, is to love the person who thinks that you might not love them because their belief system. It was just so beautiful. The moment was so beautiful. I mean, he held me. And then he drew back and looked at me. And he said, "You're the real deal." And I looked up at him and I said, "So are you." And we said our goodbyes. I never saw him again. Margaret and I went up to the room, our hotel room, that night, and replaying what happened, we both just started to bawl, just cry. And I said to Margaret, "Margaret, this is marketplace ministry disguised as a business. I'm not in the converting business. I don't need to convert anybody. You're exactly where you choose to be. But I am in the loving business. My job is to love you where you are." And that beautiful gentleman, that day, he reminded me and Margaret, I believe, what unconditional love could feel like. My nephew was sitting on my great uncle Leonard's lap. And my great uncle Leonard, he smoked cigars for like every year of my life. And I, at the time, was like 19. And I never saw him without a cigar. So Uncle Leonard smelled like a what? A really old cigar. And everyone knew Uncle Leonard smelled like a cigar, but no one had the courage to tell Uncle Leonard that he smelled like a cigar. You guys, everybody has had an Uncle Leonard somewhere in your life, right? Because Uncle Leonard was my grandmother's brother, so he had clout. Well, Jamil was 3, so he didn't know. He hasn't been introduced to being politically correct yet. Thank God, right? So Jamil is sitting on my Uncle Leonard's lap, and we're all talking, and Jamil stops in the middle of a sentence, and he goes, and the first time he sniffed, no big deal. But the second and the third time, then in his little 3-year-old voice, "Uncle Leonard, you tink." And you can hear a pin drop in the room. Oh. And everyone in that moment was grateful that they were not Jamil's mother. And we all gazed at her. Bad mom, bad mom. The next thing that fell out of Uncle Leonard's mouth shocked us all. He looked at Jamil with a long gaze, kind of not knowing what's about to happen gaze. And he said, "Jamil, I think you're right. I think I tink." For the first time in my entire life, Uncle Leonard put out his cigar. And the next time we saw Uncle Leonard, it smelled like he had just been washed for days. He was always clean, but his clothes just smelled like old cigars. And it was very clear that he got new clothes. See the freedom that a child has, the truth that they stand with. Think like a child. Don't act like a child, but think like a child. Be as free as a child. See, children have a sense of curiosity. Children forgive sooner, quicker, faster. And if you want something new to come out of your voice, you have to put something new in you in terms of a commitment. My son, I would watch the way he would forgive me. And he did something wrong one day, and I had to reprimand him, and I immediately felt guilty. And I'm in my office. He's like 4 years old, and I'm on my computer, and I'm crying because I'm single mother guilt, entrepreneur. And I'm like, and he comes around the corner and he goes, Mommy, and I just reprimanded him. He's on a timeout and all this stuff, and I'm upset, I'm crying, he's okay. And he comes around the corner and he says, Mommy? I was like, yes. Do you want to lay down with me? Yes. And he goes and he lays out this little skinny arm, and I put my big old head on that arm. There's something that happens when we allow ourselves to sit inside freedom, sit inside transparency, sit inside what I like to call carefrontation. That means I might push up against you a little bit. I might make you mildly to moderately to significantly uncomfortable in any form of mediocrity. But it's out of the spirit of love. You want to inspire people with your voice, from your child to your sibling, to your significant other, to your community, to the world, to this room. Be willing to love me enough to tell me your truth. Then love me enough to tell me my truth. Then love me enough to just tell me the truth. And be willing to touch the edge of your own comfort zone. You show me yours, and I'll show you mine. You show me your heart, and I'll show you my love. You let me know that you're willing to be imperfect and still have a perfectly giving, serving, loving life, then you give me permission to let my imperfection out into the world too. See, you want to speak at another level? You got to be willing to love at another level, forgive at another level, show up at another level, speak up at another level, pray at another level. You have to be willing on every level to up-level who you be on a daily basis. When we talk about living our quest, I think that living my quest, really, if I look at it on a daily basis, it's finding my own voice. It's finding your voice. It's finding the song that only you can sing, off key or not. It's finding your rhythm. It's discovering what it feels like to walk in your shoes today. It won't look like it looked 10 years ago. Living your quest is, what can I do with my life so that my life becomes infectious to someone else? Living my quest looks like, how do I make my fingerprint matter so big that it lives beyond my transition day? Living your quest is, how can I forgive the perceivingly unforgivable so I can love the absolute lovable? Living your quest is, how do I give myself 1,000 second chances, and every time I get to 999, press reset. Yeah. Living my quest is not some ambiguous, untouchable experience. Living my quest means going back and healing the little girl in me so that the woman can be free. It's going back and embracing the little boy in you so that the man can show up and give himself permission to cry when necessary. Living your quest is not something that you can't touch. It's not something that requires a stage or lights or cameras. Living your quest is being complete and content with who you are in the dark of the night, so who you are in the middle of the day is all right. Living your quest is as simple as it is complex. Living your quest is about giving yourself permission, say permission, on a daily basis to become the next best version of yourself. Living your quest is not holding yourself hostage to old decisions, not holding yourself hostage to shame, blame, guilt, regret, and anger. Living your quest is about recognizing that every day I can be reborn to my possibility.
The Oprah team had heard some of my backstory. And they said, can we send a camera crew, much like this wonderful camera crew?
Yes.
Not nearly as good looking. And can we send a camera crew to capture your story? And so I shared my story. And I mean, I dumped. And I shared the ugly. And right after the interview, I regretted it. because I didn't think I could be the secret teacher, the expert, and have that kind of ugly out there in the world. I didn't know. I didn't know that the world would love me for what I've come through. I thought that they would consider me an imposter in the secret. And so I shared all this junk. 2 weeks later, I'm on my way to Oprah to do the actual recording, and I know I know the video. So the night before, I'm packing and I'm crying. I'm like, oh, it's over tomorrow. It's all over.
I'm gonna go embarrass myself on Oprah.
It's the fastest career up and down anyone's ever seen. Lisa Nichols will be the secret.
Yes.
Right. So, I'm just sad. I'm scared, and I call a friend of mine at 4:15 in the morning because I stayed up all night.
Of course, yeah. How are you gonna sleep before that?
Yeah, right. And I said, I know they don't know my junk and the video, and it's over. And he said, look, can I pray for you, Lisa? And I was like, sure. My friend says, God, thank you for using your imperfect child to help your imperfect children. I went to Oprah the next day, and as the chatter kept going in my head, leading up to the moment when they play this video, I'm like, it's okay. I'm enough. I'm enough with all my mess. I'm enough. I'm enough. And the chatter kept, nope, they're going to find out. They're going to find out your son's father is in jail. They're going to find out. And I thought, no, they're not going to find out, because I'm going to tell them. Because there's power in transparency. There's power in authenticity. There's power in truth. That I'm going to speak life into someone else, because they're going to see who I am because of that, in spite of that, with that. And so then the after show came. So after the regular Oprah show, the after show. And man, I cracked open on the after show. And within 72 hours, talk about the power of transparency and authenticity. Within 72 hours, I received 8,782 emails. And my email wasn't even Lisa Nichols. It wasn't even easy to find. And my website wasn't Lisa Nichols.
Yeah.
People searching for me.
Whatever it took.
Because of the truth. And so I had the imposter syndrome then. I've had it since then. People told me, oh my God, you're the answer. And I'm searching for my own answers.
See, it's very difficult to speak phenomenally and to not be good. Come on, y'all from yesterday. Not be great, but to be what? Unfreaking forgettable. It's difficult to be unforgettable while you're still trying to look good. You can't do two things as chasing two rabbits. See, unforgettable has everything to do with serving at a level so high, so big, so massive that people feel like they have to change their lives because they crossed your path. Yes, yes. Yes, yes. Yes, yes. See, when you're willing to use your voice, first you have to recognize that you have one. You got to recognize that no matter your past, you were given a voice, and your voice was given not to keep to yourself. Your voice is not a secret, says the secret teacher. And you have to be willing to use every experience that's ever happened in your life, not as a fortress holding you from using your voice, but as the fuel on why you will use your voice. You got to be willing to not stand in your story, but stand on your story. Yes, yes. It's not in spite of your past that you get to be amazing, that you get to be a change agent, that you get to transform lives. It's because of your past that you're perfect for such a job. When you own it like that, see, there's no question in my certainty about my life. Can you walk with that level of certainty so that when the wind comes and then when the wind blows, and it will come and it will blow and it will be a storm and it will be a tornado and it will look like divorce and it will look like bankruptcy and it will look like an illness and it will look like a loss. When it comes, it will rock you. It will rock you. It will rock you, but it won't move you.
To the conversation about money and wealth, it's one, being willing to release a familiar now for an unfamiliar future. Now that's easier said than done,
yes.
And it's bigger than it sounds. Are you willing to have your future look unfamiliar, and in some cases, look around and you don't recognize anything? Are you willing? Are you so tied to the comfort of what you know, even in its discomfort? So I was willing to reinvent myself 1,000 times. Are you willing to reinvent yourself? Are you willing to introduce yourself to the new version of you?
Yes.
Are you willing to go places you wouldn't go and do things that you traditionally wouldn't do? See, I wasn't traditionally in meditation or in visualization or hanging around older white men, or like I had a 1,000 things that I didn't do traditionally.
Whenever we have guilt about feeding ourselves, serving ourselves, giving ourselves anything that we need to look at that closer. I used to say I felt guilty about having self-care and doing self-care because of what it took away from Jelani, my son, or what it took away from my parents, or what it may have taken away from my clients. But the reality was, it was simply the need for more personal development, for me to understand I'm not only worthy, you're not only worthy of success and abundance, you're worthy of self-care. Like, it sounds so different because we're so used to running after, an abundant life, running after the riches of life, whatever those riches are, whether riches in relationships, riches in financing, riches in health and wellness. But you rarely see someone running after self-care because it's actually so available to us. It's a choice. And so it's easier for us to hide behind those other things when in fact, self-care is just as much our birthright. And we have to look at it just like we look at abundance, because we have to make a decision to give ourselves permission to have a healthy relationship, healthy lifestyle, financial abundance, and self-care. That self-care is a demonstration of self-love. Self-care is a guilt-free act. Self-care is being responsible for your future. That you wouldn't dare get on a road trip that says it was 300 miles down the road. Look at your gas tank and see that you had 105 miles worth of gas in it. You would literally go and fill your tank up. Self-care is being responsible to your entire journey to go and fill your tank up.
To set healthy boundaries, you can't just make an announcement. I've been looking at the Lisa Nichols show, and I know you won't say it like that, but things have got to change. No, don't announce it like that. Don't announce it with that, what I call that stank energy on it. Don't announce it with that negative, I'm done, you've been using me. No. Again, they simply have signed up for the game that you created, the relationship that you created, which was, I'm going to give, you can receive. You don't ever have to worry about crossing a boundary with me. So the first thing you need to do is to set the record straight by apologizing to the people that you've allowed to cross your boundaries. You have to say, I apologize. Just say it just like this. Just quote me. Just like this. You don't have to say, you quote me. It's your own words. You can modify it as need be. But you know what? I owe you an apology. I owe you an apology because I've made you think that I have no boundaries. I've led you to believe that I don't need rest. What I've done is I've overused my yes. And so I'm not used to saying no, and you're not used to hearing no from me. I've even said yes to you when I needed to say no. And what I know about you is that you would want me happy. So I apologize. I set something in motion that doesn't even work for me. I love you, I know you love me, and I love the relationship, but I need to make some tweaks. I did this. Don't do it in any passive aggressive way that indirectly blames them. No, own your stuff. You are a leader. Own your mess. Own your choices. Own the results. I had to do it. Hold on, I set everyone up to believe that I can handle everything. I kind of like being the hero of the story. It was my ego or my self-esteem that needed to be fed for the last 10 years. And now I've grown up enough to realize I don't need that. And so in this new season, I need to set healthier boundaries. It's not about you. You never saw my line, so you didn't know that you were crossing it. You never saw the boundaries, so you didn't know where they existed. That's on me. Ooh, now that's grown folk talk. That's grown folk talk. That's adult. That's emotional literacy at its best. So I know it might make your knees knock. It might make your teeth chatter, but pull up your big boy pants, pull up your big girl pants and make it happen. Because on the other side of that is the experience that you deserve. and the one that you're looking for. But it first requires you to do the work. In a previous episode, I talked about your Popeye muscle. That's the thing you've been doing for a long time already. That's the letting everyone cross your boundaries. That's the saying yes to everyone. And then there's that olive oil muscle. You know, the muscle that hangs down here because it's underdeveloped. That's that setting healthy boundaries muscle. That's that apologizing for how you've shown up and allowed other people to not even see your boundary. That's owning it. Oh, yeah, I know. It can be intense, but it's so incredibly beneficial. So let's do it. Let's reclaim your boundaries. Let's reclaim your joy. Let's reclaim your life. Let's reclaim your future. Let's reclaim and design it in a way that serves everybody. Because when you do this, you will model for those who are witnessing you. You will model. People won't choose to be out of relationship with you because you apologize for never setting boundaries. It'll be a little disruptive. It'll be a little uncomfortable. It'll be a little new. And then they'll settle in it. And then we know something new. And then you've inspired others to do the same.
I look at my life as a young woman in South Central LA, living between the Harlem Crip 30s and the Rolling 60s. Those are not cheerleading squads, y'all. Having 3 fights a week to get home from school, and that was the easy part. The hard part was the fact that my highest grade in school was a C+. See, when some of you brought home C's, your parents were frustrated. When I brought home a C, my parents were excited because I was severely dyslexic in school. So it took me a lot longer to learn. The last time I took an English class, I got a fail. And my English teacher said, "Lisa, you have to be the weakest writer I've ever met in my entire life." I said, does that come with an award? I am kind of collecting rewards. And the last time I took a speech class, my speech teacher gave me a D- and said, quote unquote, "Miss Nichols, I recommend that you never speak in public, that you get a desk job." And what it showed me was that some of your best motivation might come wrapped in sandpaper. Some of your best inspiration comes with some pricks and some nails and some thorns around it. Some of your best inspiration came in an experience that you didn't ask for, you didn't want, and you never want to have again. Some of your best inspiration, some of the very thing that's fueled your soul to get you here, came in an experience that you dare not wish on your enemy. You dare not wish on anyone, but yet it still fueled you to come and step inside your quest. So when you ask the question, am I on the right path? How can you not be? If you can still see light, how can you not be?
Also, on your way to wealth, you got to be willing to walk alone sometimes.
Amen.
You got to be willing.
That's
You
for
got to
sure.
be willing to walk alone sometimes because
Amen.
everyone doesn't fit on your journey at every part of your journey. And there's parts of your vision that no one else will get. And when no one else gets your vision, remind yourself, no one else gets your vision because God didn't give your vision to them. God gave your vision to you. And that's all you got to know. And it's your job to be the midwife, the birthing agent. It's your job to be the nursing station. It's your job to be the doctor, the delivery doctor, to bring that vision out so the world can see it. That's your job. No one has to see it or get it while it's here. It's your job to birth it. It's your job to give it arms. It's your job to give it oxygen. And it's your job to be patient enough to know that it won't happen overnight. Just like a child. When a baby is threatening to be born in 5 months, the doctor says, hold on, bed rest. The lungs aren't developed. Hold on, bed rest. The heart isn't strong enough. Hold on, bed rest. The muscles aren't. Same thing about your dream. So when you get impatient about your dream, it's only because you're comparing your dream and your journey to somebody else's journey.
Yes.
It's only because, and Benjamin Franklin says, comparison is and will always be the thief of all your joy.
Wow.
And so don't look left. Don't look left. Don't look right. Just look straight ahead. People always say, Lisa, how'd you do it? I wasn't looking left and right. I wasn't keeping notes on what Tony was doing or what Jack was doing. I love them, but I'm busy. I'm busy building my dreams. I'll stop and have dinner with you. I'll stop and bump elbows with you, but I'm not going to compare my life, my joy, my success, and what's my divine right to yours. Nor am I going to minimize my light or my brightness for anyone as well.
There becomes a time when you no longer fit in your old story. I think that day is today. That there's a new part 2 trying to be born for you. And it requires you to own every part of the past, but own every part of the possibility. And on the other side of that, the diamonds that will drop out of your mouth the diamonds that will come birthing from your soul, the seeds that will be planted, and the harvest that will grow. You will be barely recognizable. But better than that are the people around you, how their lives will shift. Because when you change, you is just one person. But when you become a force to be reckoned with, then your voice permeates over 800 people or so. Some of the same mindset challenges I had when I was launching my business in 1997, I hit those same mindset challenges in 2008 when The Secret had come out, when I was on Oprah. Then I hit the same mindset challenges and needed the same mindset shifts in 2018 when my company was 5 times larger. So I see this on my campus so often. People often assume that they need to get another coach to speak more powerfully. Well, in some cases, that might be the case. They need to join another community. That might be the case in some cases. Or learn another skill set, a new skill set. Well, actually, sometimes it's a mindset shift. They need to make a needlepoint move in their thinking, working on their mindset. You can stay in the same community. You can have the same coach. You can do the same things, but with a different mindset, it produces a different outcome. Have you stopped to think about the fact that everything we do, everything we physically do, starts first in our mind? The opportunity to examine your mind and steering how you decide the direction that you want to go in or not. That's something that we don't spend enough time thinking about, that we should actually go, hold on, let me think about my mindset. Customize your content for each event. I cannot tell you how many times I see speakers and orators and teachers and whomever, and they have a really great message. But with each new audience they go to, 90% of the message is the same. I gotta be honest with you, some of the people that I know in the industry, some of my friends, they do it, and I love them and I love their heart. But I truly believe that the audience is paying for the lack of energy. Let me just say, lazy. The audience is paying because you're being lazy. Customize your message for your audience. Who are they? How are they different? And even if it's the same demographic, so they're still women and they're still entrepreneurs, but are we in a different time? I dare not deliver the exact same message this year to the same demographic that I delivered in 2019. Why? Too much has happened. She, he, they are in a totally new place. So you want to make sure that your message addresses your audience. Now, let me just tell you something. I saw a very powerful speaker. I will not mention his name. I saw a very powerful speaker be so sure that he can move the audience that when he was speaking to his audience, he actually went in a direction that this audience wasn't interested in. But it's where his speech was. And it was a great speech for another audience. And he was on autopilot. So I want you to think about it this way. You don't talk to everyone in your life the same way. You know, if you were talking to a 3-year-old, you have a 3-year-old's conversation. If you were talking to a 15-year-old, you have a 15-year-old's conversation to relate to them. And if you were talking to a 55-year-old, or let's just look at me because that's where I happen to be right now in my life, you would speak to me differently. And so you don't speak to your partner the way you would speak to your boss, the way you would speak to your children, the way you would speak to your friend. You talk to them in a way that fits the relationship that you're in with them. Your audience is the exact same way. Taking the time to customize your message. You can be talking about the same content, same technique. I teach about speaking all the time. But I'm always saying, am I talking to a corporate employee? Am I talking to a corporate exec? Am I talking to an entrepreneur? Am I speaking to a teenager? Same content, but I apply the message so that it fits the audience. This allows the audience to feel as if you've customized something for them and they have a more intimate connection to you. Step 3 is about designing your powerful close. So most people end with a fizzle.
And I'm going to say one of the major foundations to a powerful message is to end with fire, like fire. So end with fire, not a fizzle. Speakers often overlook and dismiss the close because they're so committed to the content and they think, oh, it's the end. No, like think about it when you're at a concert. When you're at a concert and like you're with like a mega artist, like if it were Prince or Tina Turner or Janet Jackson or Beyonce or Mary J. Blige, or if you're with Kenny G, or you have a concert, a major concert. They don't end with the fizzle. They don't end with the song that no one knew, that didn't go gold or didn't hit a major status, or that you can't sing along with. They crescendo. And they may go down and give you some of the, ones that are more mediocre in the middle. But at the end, they come out and do the encore even. And the encore is always something that gets everyone to sing along. It's an encore that it's fire. That's exactly how your message needs to be. So let me let you in on the secret sauce. Like a lot of things that I love to do now is really taking you behind the black curtain on powerful speeches, behind the black curtain on becoming unforgettable when you open your mouth or when you present in front of people. Your close, here it is. You ready for it? Your close is so important. It's the audience's last impression of you. And most people go height, and down and by. I've witnessed so many times great speeches that kept me engaged and kept me excited until the end. Every time this happens, I'm screaming inside my head, no, please. Don't make your last impression a fizzle. This is about step 4. This one is huge for connecting with your audience and keeping them interested and engaged. Now, so many times I see speakers or presenters speaking and they're not checking in with their audience to even see if they're listening anymore. And as a result, people are on their phones or they're doing whatever, they're multitasking. You want to keep your audience absolutely engaged. So let me give you some techniques. You want to identify your audience's drivers. You want to know these things before you even open your mouth. Like you want to know what makes your audience tick. What gets them excited? What gets them into action? What's super important to them? What's the WIIFM? What's in it for me? But in this case, what's in it for them? What drives them? What motivates them? This step is beyond customizing your speech, which is what I mentioned in a previous show. This is really understanding the psychographic of your audience. Whether you're on social media, that's an audience. Whether you're teaching a class, that's an audience. Whether you're talking to one individual, that's an audience. So you have to ask yourself, what's the red button for this particular group of individuals? When I speak to mothers, I recognize that a mother's job is to make her children feel safe. A mother's job is to make them feel loved. A mother also feels overwhelmed. She's also the multitasker of all times. She also needs rest. And she wants to be acknowledged. Many times she's under-acknowledged. I know that. I know that before I start talking to the moms, or even when I'm talking to an audience and I say, if you are a mother, then, and I begin to go into the things that I know is important to a mother. If I'm speaking to a group of speakers or entrepreneurs, then I know it's about several things. It's about impact. You want your voice to be heard. You also want to know that your voice is powerful. You want to know that your message is being received. You also want to monetize your message. So it's not just about speaking, it's also about the business. If I'm speaking to teens during our Motivating the Teen Spirit events, then as a teen, I go, okay, so teens are not making a lot of decisions in their lives for themselves. Decisions are being made around them. They want to own their voice. They want to hear their own voice. They're tired of rules. So in the Motivating the Teen Spirit, when I'm talking to teens, I say, here are no rules. They go, what? In this space, we just make agreements together. Man, they perk up as soon as I do that because they're not used to that.
So to that point, you want to make sure that you understand what the needs and the desires and what motivates the audience that you're speaking to before you even open your mouth. You don't want to just speak to what's important to you. You want to speak to what's important to them. And what are those hot buttons? What are those red buttons that will make them go, whoop, whoop? Let me listen a little closer. This part of the process may sound like a lot of work, but it's worth it because it can turn a speech, a message into an experience. Step number 5, you want to take the techniques, the previous 4 techniques that I've given you. And if you're in any one of my courses, it's actually 17 techniques. And you want to make it sound like a symphony. And the reason why this is a step is because most people look at techniques and look at things they do very fragmented. Well, I'm going to say, and I like to call it 2 things. 1, make it sound like a symphony, meaning you want your message to blend together. Think of it as if you were writing a song, because a message should be rhythmic. It should be like a song. It should have this cadence to it. It should have this alliteration to it. It should have this flow to it. It has this opening. It has this middle, this arc, and it has this ending. And it all comes together, right? That's the symphony. That's the sound. That's the band. The other way you can look at it is you want to take your individual ingredients and then you want to layer them together like lasagna. And you want to put them on. Lasagna is actually not one of the easiest dishes to make because it's about individual mastery of the particular taste and the particular seasonings. And then it's also about layering it in such a way that it meshes together and comes out in one form. That's how a great message is. You take the techniques, audience connection. You take the techniques, ending with a fire, not a fizzle. You take the techniques, understanding what's in it for your audience. You take the techniques, verbal highlights. And you do all these techniques and then you go, how do I layer them? Content and story and opening and close. Yeah, again, I say, this ain't elementary. This is MBA, right? So it takes a minute. But if you've implemented the first 4 steps, then you have delicious content. You understand what a soul-stirring story looks like because I taught you the valley. You understand the crescendo and a close. Now it's time for you as the conductor, or like my son Jelani, as the head chef, as he is a chef of all times. Now you want to put the dish together, or as the conductor, you want to create a beautiful symphony of words. Yeah, I know when you think of it that way, it's like, well, Lisa, it's just a message. No, it's not. It's life for someone who's listening. It's life for someone who needs your words. So take the time and create a symphony of oration. Create a symphony of possibility. Create a symphony of energy. Because when you speak, and you speak possibility, you speak education, you speak motivation, you're speaking life. You need to have content and you need to have stories. Now, the number of stories that you offer in your message has a lot to do with how much time you have, because you always want to give your audience of one or of many, online, virtual, or live, you want to give them enough content to walk away with value. However, it's super important that you give them enough story to walk away with a connection. So what normally happens, some of the best speakers that are out there today, best presenters, they are only doing one or the other. They fall flat in one of those areas. They're either all story and you don't have enough content to write down, or they're all content. That's pretty much the majority of people. They're all content. And there's very few opportunities to make a connection. So why do you deliver content? You deliver content because it's the intellectual learning that you're going to teach your audience, right? Whether it's new concepts, it's the theory that provides your audience with the insight to move forward. Content is the steps, the how-to. Content is where they choose to follow you as an expert, as a coach, as a leader, because you have insight on neuro-linguistic programming, behavior management, media, marketing. You got that content on personal perseverance and transformation. You are the content provider for that particular body of work, meaning your intellectual property will help move them forward in their life in that area.
Super, super important. Now that, I want you to put that by itself. That's important. The mistake most speakers make, most presenters make, is that they give you all of that. Well, I walk away with value, but you miss a huge part of me. Now, where is that? That's from the story. So the story is that experience that you share that grounds the content and makes it real. Now, you don't have to necessarily point to the content. You're just sharing a story about a time in your life, and that story just gives context. It gives 3D. It gives texture, what I like to call it, to what you're talking about, to the content. It brings the content to life in a moment. Let me give you an example. Well, the story is what allows the audience to see themselves in you. The story is what creates the vibration, the energy exchange. Remember, content doesn't create an energy exchange. Content creates an intellectual exchange. You want an energy exchange. Why? Content will have people respect you. Stories will have people become loyal to you. You may ask, how do you customize? How do you customize, Lisa, a message for your audience? How do you know what the audience needs? That's what I would be asking me right now. How do I know what the audience needs? Ask questions. Write this down. Your listeners or your customers are the experts. Say that. My customers are the experts. My students are the experts. The next line, I am the service provider. Oh, when I got that years ago, that my customers, my audience, my students, you're the expert. You're the expert of your journey because you know what you need more than I do. You're the expert on what you need. I'm the service provider. So the best thing you could do is ask questions. What matters to you most these days? What problem are you working to solve? What's keeping you up at night? What area would you love to grow in? What's your pain point? What are the 10 things that you're tolerating right now? They're not screaming loud enough to make you change them, but they're screaming loud enough to annoy you. Like, ask those questions. Collect the data. Put it in your back pocket. And as you're creating content and as you're creating programs, create programs and content that speaks to what your audience has already shared with you. I'm going to tell you, there are many other techniques I have to teach you in the science of speaking that would help you. This is one of those cornerstones. So as I was saying, the top of the V, right, is the big U. So it's where you build your credibility. No shrinking here. If you're really, really humble and you're really reserved, this is sort of where it will become challenging for you. Some people, they really can go in their valley easy, right? Most of us. For some, it's difficult. For others, it's difficult to actually share the big U, your credibility. This is where you share your highlights. This is where you share your experiences, your accolades, your achievements, your credentials. And it can't seem like it's a bio, or a resume. So I graduated from, and I know you say it because you're going to take them into the valley. So you want to say, even though you want to kind of give a little clue that you're about to take them somewhere else, even though I have 7 bestsellers, and I've spoken and inspired over 86 million people. And I've been able to travel and be on every single continent that could be populated by man. Even though I've generated over $80 million in business in the self-training and self-development industry in my company over the last 27 years. Even though that's who I am, you see how I just gave you the credentials inside of a even though. Or you can say, what you may or may not know about me, what you may or may not know about me is that I'm a best-selling author times 7 books. What you may or may not know about me is that I have been featured on every major national platform. What you may or may not know about me is I have lost over $1 million and I've earned over 88 million. But what I'm sure you don't know about me is Notice how the big you say it in such a way where it leads into the valley. So it's not a bio. It's not spoken as if it's a bio. It's not spoken as if it is a resume. It's spoken as if it's a conversation that's about to lead into the valley. All of that I just share with you, and I just use my experience, my life as an example to give you. You do yours and don't compare yours to mine, right? Comparison, as Benjamin Franklin says, comparison is and will always be the thief of all your joy. You want to leave them wanting more. The number one tip for a powerful close is to leave them wanting more. Now, mind you, hold on. I want to make sure you understand you leave them wanting more having already given them something. So please don't be one of those bait and switch speakers. Ugh, that drives me crazy. Like, don't tell me if you come to my thing, I'm going to really tell you how. And the whole speech you're delivering how you're going to help them in that next experience. Don't be a bait and switch speaker. Don't be a bait and switch teacher. Give me value now. And then tell me where I can get more from you. Leave me wanting more from you. All right? And the way you can do this, write this down. Here are some of my favorite. It's called the disappearing close. You have the audience talk. Oh, this one, right? Like, wait, hold on. You got to know. Now, this isn't a beginner's move. This is kind of like a gladiator move. You've been in it for a while. You've been doing messages for a while. This is if your audience is either physically together, right? Or you can online, you can open up their lines and have them talk, or you can have them begin to type in chat, right? And I call this first one because we'll get back together live. Life is going to continue. We'll get back together live. We'll never be like we were, but we will be evolved from this time. And when you're live in front of an audience, or it's a small group, it's what I call the disappearing close. And the disappearing close is so bold because it says, I've given you so much value. I've contributed so much. I've left my fingerprint on you that I don't need to be a part of the closing experience. I'm going to do a disappearing close, which means you turn the audience to one another. This is what it looks like. I want you to turn and find at least 3 people in the room, go up to them and say, I'm ready for the next best version of me. Are you? I'm ready for the next best version of me. Are you ready? Find 3 people and say that to them. Another disappearing close is I want you to go find a partner right now. Everyone go find a partner. Raise your hand if you need to have a partner. Everyone, great. Everyone has a partner. I want you to tell that partner what are 3 things that they can expect from you. What are 3 things that they, and let them represent the world. You can expect me to honor my word. You can expect me to live inside my time management. You can expect me to change the planet. Tell that same neighbor, I'm interested in what you're doing. What are you doing? What's the world going to expect from you? So you can create a one-on-one, or you can create a walk around and say, you can do, I just picked those sentences just right now in the moment, but you can have them talk to one person, or you can have them walk around the room. You also can guide the conversation. Turn to your partner, repeat after me. I stand in front of you. And they'll say, I stand in front of you, ready to become the best version of myself. Ready to become the best version. You can have them talk to each other and create a solid connection. Super powerful. That's the disappearing close. The other close is you can close with a poem. It doesn't have to be your poem. You can close with a quote. Oh, it's really powerful when you close with a quote that is just juicy and delicious, or you can close with a statement that another person says that drops everyone in their heart. I used to always close with, my grandmother says that when you get to the end of your life and you're at the end of your journey and you're in your later years, that you're supposed to sit in your favorite rocking chair and share with everyone who will listen the stories of your life, which is what my grandma does right now. She says, but baby, when you're your age, and I would point to the audience, when you're your age, you're supposed to make sure that that story that you're going to share is going to be real good to tell. Go out and make a great story. I would always end with that. And people would always say, oh man, I love that when you said, I'm going to make my great story. Or I would end with, remember you guys, no one can do you like you can do you. Benjamin Franklin says, comparison
is and will always be the thief of all your joy. Don't compare, just compliment. Compliment us with who you are. Go do you. So you can find a quote and you can end with a quote, or you can end with a call to action. And so I challenge each one of you. I challenge you to play big. I challenge you to speak up, stand up, show up, stay prayed up. I challenge you to step up in a way you've never stepped up before. And as you do, I'll be cheering you on. So you can end with a challenge like that. You also can end in a question. If I end in a question, it's like a rhetorical question. It's like a bunch of what ifs. So as I leave you with this. What if? What if you showed up like you've never showed up before? What if you danced as if no one was looking? What if you love as if your heart's never been broken? What if you sing as if you're always on key? What if you shine as if we all can handle your shine? I just got that question for you as I leave. What if? What if you gave us the best version of you? What if? The importance of a powerful close, I cannot tell you enough how it makes all the difference in the world. Like when you're anchoring your message, your close is a critical component. So remember, don't fizzle me. Leave me on fire. Why do you want to create a powerful message? Because every time you open your mouth, you want to create impact. Every time. Whether you're talking to your friends, your children, your family members, whether you're talking to an audience of 1 or an audience of 100 or 1,000 or 100,000. Whether you're in a boardroom or whether you're walking on the beach, you want to create impact. Now, if you're a business owner or an entrepreneur, then this message is super important for you because it has everything to do with you attracting your ideal customer and keeping them. So I won't say that this is the final step because I created an outline for the science of impactful speaking, culminating my 27 years at the time that I shot this video, 27 years in the business and creating a multi-million-dollar platform. And I got to tell you, the first 10, 12 years of me creating this crazy, successful global business and brand, I didn't even know the techniques I was doing. It was my unconscious competence. And over a period of time, I thought, whoa, I keep creating this tsunami of new clients, tsunami of new business partners. What's happening? And I began to look at and study what were the techniques that I did on stage, on camera, in interviews that kept creating this tremendous wave of success. And then I began to shape it so that I can create techniques out of it. So it wouldn't just be my superpower, but it can become your superpower as well. Anger is an emotion that brings with it so much anxiety, stress. It's a shutdown emotion. It literally is a shutdown emotion. And it's an emotion that we never invite in. It's very intrusive. It intrudes and it causes us to be smaller than we want to be. It causes us to not stand in our glory and in our greatness. It causes us to be absent of love or absent of, peace of mind. Anger doesn't live with those things. It's like oil and water. Number 1, in relationships, live parked between fluid and flexible. That's where I park. Every day I pull up and I park between fluid and flexible because some days I have to expand to give the relationship more, and other days it requires me to contract so that I can hold the energy that I need for me. So relationships are designed to be a dynamic exchange. That's the baseline of a relationship. It's a dynamic exchange. Now, the reality is that some of us are givers and some of us are receivers. And that's just true. It's just, I don't know if it's biological. I don't know if it's psychological. I don't know. You got to consult someone else for that. But I do know that there's some of us we're happy in our giving mode. And it's actually a little awkward to receive. And then there's others, and we like to call them takers, but they're not takers. They're receivers. Because a receiver doesn't have to take. Because if a receiver gets with the giver, all you got to do is be present and available to receive. So I don't like to call it takers because then it makes it malicious for them. And that's not the case. Now, there are people who are users. That's very different.
I think the dynamic of relationships are there's receivers and there's givers. And what I found was that givers, I'm a giver, we actually feel more comfortable with the receiver. And then we get upset because they don't give to us. Like, cray cray. We actually seek out, and I say we seek out receivers. We love our givers in our space, but that almost pushes our buttons a bit, because then we have to learn how to receive when we're with another giver. When you ask the question, how do I overcome anger when I've been angry for so long? First, admit that you're tired of being angry. Because something is familiar doesn't mean you like it. And a lot of times we get resigned in a familiar emotion. Just because it's familiar doesn't mean it's the emotion of choice. It doesn't mean it's the familiar, doesn't mean favorite. It just means familiar. And so if you're willing to exchange your familiar emotion for an emotion of possibility, an emotion that you deserve, an emotion that you want more, then you will, separate from the person, you will redesign your relationship with anger in and of and by itself.
Because you made it this far in a video, I want to celebrate you. Most people start and don't finish. Most people never actually follow through. Most people say they want something, but they don't ever do the work to actually get it. But you are different. You are special. Believe Nation, you made it here all the way to the end, and I love you. So as a special celebration, if you put a hashtag believe down in the comments below on this video, I will showcase you and celebrate you somewhere on the screen in a future video, because you are awesome. For 50 more amazing rules from Iyanla Vanzant, check the video right there next to me. I think you'll love it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.
Keep it simple. The truth will cut through all the drama, all the misunderstanding, all the hurt, all the pain, all the memories. Keep it simple. I don't care how long you've been